Hey, this is Tyler. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me on this ongoing journey and adventure. In our last episode, we laid the groundwork for everything that follows by defining what a relationship truly is. We explored three core components and then walked through the five levels of relationship, from basic physical interactions all the way up to spiritual or transcendental bonds. We examined family and parenting as crucibles for where our relationship skills first develop, dove into emotional fluency as a learnable skill, unlike IQ, which is fixed, and even considered the profound, inherent divine relationships each of us carries within us, framed by both Christian roots and a transpantheistic omega point. Today, we shift from why relationships matter to how we relate. We're moving from the abstract foundations to practical dynamics, the behavioral patterns and emotional frameworks that actively shape our conversations, bonds, and moments of closeness or distance in our lives. Specifically, in this episode, we'll explore four essential dimensions of how we relate. First is relational styles, or the basic strategies we default to when approaching others, moving towards connection, moving away to protect our independence, or moving against to assert control. Next, we have attachment styles, the deep rooted emotional patterns we carry from our childhood, whether that's anxious, avoidant, or secure attachment, and how they play out in our adult relationships. Then we have the love languages, the five powerful ways we each give and receive love, whether that's words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, physical touch, or gifts. And then finally, we have gendered desires, the core emotional needs men and women typically bring to relationships, like a woman's desire to feel genuinely desired and a man's need to feel useful and respected. We'll unpack each of these so that you can not only recognize your own patterns, but also consciously choose healthier, more fulfilling ways to connect. Before we dive in, I want to pause and reflect on this question. Which of these dynamics, relational styles, attachment style, love language, or gendered desire, resonates most with your own relationships and experiences? Keep that in mind as we move forward. Notice when you're moving towards someone, when you instinctively pull away, how your childhood attachment influences your trust, which love languages light you up, and how honoring your partner's core needs might transform your own connections. Now that we've set the stage for why relationships are so foundational, let's turn to how we actually relate. Our default relational styles. These are the broad patterns we fall into whenever we connect with others, especially under stress or strong emotion. Understanding your style is like getting the map of your relational habits. Once you see it, you can understand the relational style you align with. I don't think any style is good or bad, but we definitely all have a relational style. The first is the move towards relational style. Now, people who move towards instinctively seek connection, approval, and belonging. They lean in, reaching out for intimacy, reassurance, and emotional support. They're frequently warm and align with agreeableness on a personality spectrum. This relational style is often rooted in our early family dynamics, where closeness and validation were learned as survival strategies. Culturally, we reward team players and collaboration behavior, further reinforcing this style. Temperamentally, high sociability and empathy toward constant closeness. On the pros, it builds strong bonds quickly, creates warm and supportive environments, and fosters teamwork and collaboration. These are like your ideal managers. On the flip side, these people can become overly dependent or clingy. They may sacrifice personal boundaries or self care, and they risk losing autonomy or self identity. The next relational style we have is the move away style. People who move away create emotional distance. They value privacy, self sufficiency, and autonomy. They often appear aloof or stepping back when relationships feel overwhelming. They're often rooted in early experiences of emotional neglect or intrusion. Children learn to protect themselves by withdrawing. Individually, an introverted temperament or high sensitivity can make closeness feel exhausting, and so they pull away from it. On the pros, it maintains a strong personal boundary and it encourages self reflection and independence. It also prevents enmeshment and over dependency with others. On the cons, it can lead to isolation or emotional disconnection. It may prevent deep intimacy and vulnerability, and it risks misunderstanding or rejection from others when you pull away. The final relational style is the move against relational style. This one's mine, 100%. Those who move against others take an assertive, sometimes confrontational stance. They assert dominance, compete for status, or control situations to feel secure. Often a reaction to environments where powerlessness was learned. Children may have felt helpless and later adopted control as a defense. Culturally, competitive success and assertiveness are frequently celebrated, at least in the Western tradition, enforcing this style. On the pros, it offers clear boundaries and assertiveness. It's very effective in negotiation and leadership, and it can drive progress and protection against exploitation. On the cons, there's a tremendous risk of conflict, aggression, or alienation, and it can erode trust and intimacy due to the abrasive nature of the relational style. And finally, it may become overly competitive, undermining collaboration. Your default style likely grew from a mix of family modeling, how you saw your parents or caregivers relate to each other and to you, your own personal temperament, and even cultural norms about independence or cooperation. For instance, as we've talked about before, in collectivist cultures, you may have seen move towards rewarded more often, while in highly individualistic societies, the move against style may feel more natural. Now that we've explored our relational styles, how we move towards, away, or against others, let's dive into the emotional undercurrents that shape all our connections, our attachment styles. Attachment theory teaches us that early caregiving experiences form deep rooted templates for how we bond, trust, and feel safe or unsafe in relationship throughout our lives. The first is the anxious attachment. If you're anxious attached, you're often hypervigilant to signs of rejection or abandonment. You crave closeness so intensely that you may interpret small lapses or delayed text reply as evidence that someone doesn't care. This style often originates when a caregiver's attention was inconsistent, sometimes warm and responsive, other times distant or preoccupied. You never knew whether comfort would come, so you learned to stay on alert, ready to signal distress at the first hint of emotional distance. In your adult life, you may find yourself needing frequent reassurance. Do you still love me? Are you upset with me? You might become clingy or conversely push people away in moments of panic. In friendships and work, you may overcommunicate or become anxious when colleagues don't immediately include you or respond. The next attachment style is the avoidant attachment. If you're avoidantly attached, you tend to keep an emotional distance. You value self reliance and may feel uncomfortable with too much intimacy. You might think, I don't need anyone, I can handle this myself. And this often grows from early childhood experiences of emotional unavailability. Caregivers who were physically present but emotionally distant are overly intrusive and dismissive. You learn that clinging leads to rejection, so you protected yourself by withdrawing. In adult relationships, you may struggle with vulnerability, preferring to handle problems alone rather than asking for help. You might appear aloof in friendships or keep romantic partners at arm's length because you're afraid of letting them in. At work, you may excel independently but resist collaboration or emotional feedback. The final attachment style is actually the only positive one, and that's the secure attachment style. Securely attached individuals feel comfortable with intimacy and autonomy in balance. You trust that others will be there for you, and you're equally comfortable giving space or closeness. Secure attachment usually stems from consistent, responsive caregiving. Caregivers who soothed distress, encouraged exploration, and validated feelings from your childhood. You learned early that the world is a safe enough space to depend on others. As an adult, you generally communicate your needs clearly, offering support without losing yourself, and you handle conflict with trust. In all relationships, romantic, platonic, professional, you navigate closeness and independence fluidly. Research tells us that roughly 56% of us enjoy a secure attachment style, feeling comfortable with both intimacy and independence, while about 25% tend towards anxiety and another 19% towards avoidance. Unlike relational styles, which can serve us in different contexts, attachment patterns have one clear, healthy mode: secure. The good news is that attachment isn't set in stone. Through awareness, intentional practice, and supportive relationships, you can reshape your early templates and move towards greater security over time. Whether it's gently leaning into small acts of vulnerability, seeking out mentors or therapists who model consistent responsiveness, or simply journaling about moments when you felt truly seen and supported, each step helps rebuild the neural pathways of trust and balance that define a secure attachment. Now, I want to take a small tangent and highlight some things that always show up in popular media or in comedy romance. And that is that many times the anxious attachment style is paired with the avoidant attachment style, and it leads to tremendous drama. And we love it in our stories. But when it's our personal story, these relationships blow up constantly. And that's because when one person becomes more anxious, the other person becomes more avoidant, which leads to this death cycle of continuous anxious and avoidant attachment. And so it plays into the worst of us. And the only way to really escape that cycle is to make certain that if you are an anxious or an avoidant attachment style, that you find a way to move towards a secure attachment style, or you find a way to match with someone who has a secure attachment style. Now that we've explored our relational styles and attachment patterns, let's turn to the architecture of emotional connection itself, how we give and receive love most naturally. Dr. Gary Chapman calls these our love languages, and understanding them can transform relationships overnight. The first is words of affirmation. For some of us, nothing feels more loving than a heartfelt compliment or words of encouragement. I believe in you. You mean the world to me. Or simply, thank you for being you, can light someone up from the inside. If this is your primary love language, silence or criticism wounds more deeply than anything else. The next is quality time. This is my predominant love language. Others feel most loved when someone truly shows up, unhurried, spending intentional time together. It's not about being in the same room with your phone. It's about eye contact, undivided attention, and shared experiences. A 2-hour hike with no distractions might mean more than a dozen I love yous. The third is acts of service. If actions speak louder than words, you likely resonate with acts of service. Doing the dishes unprompted, picking up groceries when your partner had a long week, or fixing that leaky faucet without being asked can communicate, I care for you deeply, in a way that words cannot. The fourth is physical touch. For many, a hug or a kiss on the forehead or simply holding hands says, you're safe with me. Physical touch releases oxytocin, building trust and connection. Even small gestures, rubbing someone's back when they're stressed, can speak volumes. And the final and the fifth love language is receiving gifts. Some people cherish tangible tokens of love: a thoughtful souvenir from a trip, a single flower just because, or a carefully chosen book. It's not about materialism. It's the thought behind the gift that communicates, I know you, I see you, you matter to me. Matching love languages is foundational to feeling truly loved. When you speak someone's primary language, they experience connection in their own emotional code. Conversely, if you pour words of affirmation on someone whose primary love language is acts of service, they may hear your compliments, but still feel unseen if the laundry is undone. Research and countless real stories show that couples who learn each other's love languages report deeper satisfaction, less conflict, and greater sense of being valued. It's like learning a native tongue of your partner's emotional world. To discover your primary and secondary love languages, ask yourself, what makes me feel most loved or appreciated? Was it that heartfelt thank you note, that uninterpreted afternoon together, or surprise cup of coffee? What do I most often request when I'm feeling down or stressed? Do you say, just talk to me? Could you help me with dinner? Can we cuddle on the couch? Or you remembered my favorite snack. Thank you. What do I complain about most frequently? If you hear, we never spend quality time, you might value quality time. If you're upset by missed hugs, physical touch may be key. Write down your top 2 to 3 responses. These are probably your love languages in action. Once you know your own, turn the lens outward. Observe. Notice what your partner asks for most or what they praise in others. Engage in a low stakes conversation. I read about these 5 languages. Which one feels most natural to you? And over the next week, intentionally speak one language that your partner prefers. If they value quality time, plan a short outing without screens. If they value acts of service, take on a chore they dislike. And after you experiment, check in. How did that make you feel? And adjust accordingly. It's not about perfect performance, it's about ongoing learning and intentional connection. Small gestures show you're listening in their emotional vocabulary. Note that I find that people who have certain love languages have an easy time sharing those love languages that they relate to. But you need to be aware that your partner may not have the same love language as you. So you'll need to build better skills to ensure that they feel loved, especially if you do not share love languages between the two of you. And note that all relationships in this are about bids and responses. In fact, a majority of strongly held relationships throughout decades is just a matter of responding to bids and responses in your day in, day out relationships. If you can notice the very small gestures that happen in your day in, day out relationships, and you answer them with someone's love language, you are on a track to a tremendous relationship. And it doesn't take much, but it does take effort, and you do have to work on it every day. So take a moment. Which language did you most resonate with? How can you practice both giving and receiving that language more in your life? And how might you begin speaking with your loved ones' emotional languages to deepen your bonds? Next, let's explore how deep seated, often unconscious needs shaped by evolution and culture tend to differ between men and women in relationships. Understanding these gendered desires helps us bridge communication gaps and nurture true, fulfilling connections. Most women, from a core needs perspective, report that nothing communicates love more profoundly than knowing that they are genuinely desired and valued. This goes beyond physical attraction. It's about feeling seen in their whole personhood, heard in their emotional truths, and validated when they share their vulnerabilities. Phrases like, I admire you, I'm proud of you, your feelings matter to me, can resonate powerfully. Men, on the other hand, thrive when they feel useful and respected for their contributions. Acts of tangible helpfulness, fixing something around the house, protecting loved ones, or offering solutions signal I am competent, I matter, and I am valued. Respectful acknowledgement of their efforts, like thank you for handling that, I trust your judgment, often translate into deep emotional connection. From a biological standpoint, ancestral men who could provide resources and protection earned status, mating opportunities, and ancestral women who displayed indicators of fertility and nurturance attracted stable support. While modern life is vastly different, these evolutionary frameworks continue to shape our unconscious desires. Men seeking to prove competence and women seeking to be valued and desired. Cultural narratives also reinforce these patterns. Movies, literature, and social norms often depict women yearning for romantic pledges of devotion, while men are cast as heroes whose greatest honor is serving and leading. These scripts are built within our ancestral heritage, and explain why these desires feel so instinctive and resonant. And due to the Lindy effect, as we've talked about before, these tropes continue to rake in money at the box office. So obviously, there's something there that we all desire. Now, I recognize this may not be your story for you specifically, but on the whole, this is true. This is our evolutionary past of which we've come from. And while there are unique differences between men and women, a majority of men and women do resonate with these, as proven by science. So, for women, if you're recognizing the honor within men's desire to help, ask for help. Even small requests like, could you help me with this task, signal you value his competence. A genuine thank you, you're amazing at that, reinforces his sense of usefulness. Acknowledge public effort or privately. Compliment in front of his friends. He fixed our sink so quickly. Or in a private note, deepen his emotional reward. For men, authentically express desire, validation, and emotional presence. Verbally affirm. Say, you look beautiful to me. I love how passionate you are about this. Or simply, I'm here for you and I hear you. Men, this is not, I am going to solve your problems or tell me what your problems are so that I can solve them. It is simple verbal affirmation. Also, active listening. Put away distractions, maintain eye contact, and reflect back what she's saying through mirroring. This alone communicates deep validation. Also, make certain that you have non sexual physical touch, like holding hands, a gentle touch on the back, just signals desire and closeness in everyday moments. Analyses of suicide notes reveal distinct gendered patterns in their final messages, revealing these underlying relational needs. Women in their suicide notes frequently center on expressing emotional pain, longing, and the need to be heard, reflecting that core need to feel desired, seen, and emotionally validated. Men, likewise, their notes predominantly reflect practical instructions and guidance for loved ones, highlighting a core need to feel useful, respected, and needed. We see these gender differences in deathbed regrets as well. Men more frequently cite regrets tied to work. I worked too hard and I missed my children's youth, or I should have spent more time with my family, echoing their core need to be useful and present. Women often highlight regrets around authentic emotional expression. I wish I'd had the courage to express my true feelings, or I wish I'd let myself be happier, reflecting their core need to feel seen and emotionally validated. Understanding these gendered desires equips you to honor both your own core needs and those of your partners. We've covered a lot in today's episode. Let's take a moment to recap the 4 dynamic tools you now have in your relational toolkit. First is your relational style. Understanding if you move towards, move away, or move against others, and how each style can both serve you and trip you up. Next, we have attachment styles, recognizing anxious, avoidant, or secure patterns that trace back to your early caregiving and how they show up in your adult life, in your romance, your friendships, and in your work. Love languages, discovering the 5 ways we each most deeply give and receive love, whether that's words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, physical touch, or gifts. And finally, gendered desires, honoring how many women need to feel desired and emotionally validated, and many men need to feel useful, respected, and needed. These are practical skills, just like emotional fluency. You can practice them daily, refine them over time, and watch your relationships transform as you begin to speak others' emotional languages more consciously. Next time, we'll shift our focus outward even further, from the level of one-on-one relationships to the dynamics of groups and societies. We'll explore how tribalism and collective cohesion, how gossip, shared narratives, and the need for common enemies unite us or divide us. We'll look at the moral instincts that bind tribes, the fairness paradox, and how these ancient patterns still shape politics, culture, and community today. Before we go, Here's something to consider. How will you apply these four tools? Your relational style awareness, attachment insights, love language, and understanding of gender desires in your next conversation and interaction. How might they help you build a deeper, more fulfilling relationship? Take a moment right now. Perhaps jot down one specific action you'll try. So, again, thanks for joining me on this journey and adventure. I'm glad you're here. I look forward to our next encounter, and good luck on your own journey.